Welcome to Ghost Stories. Join me, your host Arthur Q. Mansley, and my delightful intern Beth, as we delve into the intricacies of ghouls, ghosts, goblins, and everything in between, as we discuss their anatomy, physiology, culture, empirical aspirations, and other theories associated with them. So today's creature is...
I wanted to know more about your experiences with the Hopkinsville Goblin.
the Hopkinsville Goblin. Ooh,
Yes.
Quite the interesting and controversial creature you've touched upon, Beth. Might I expound upon their origin for you? All right. It all began in the year 1955. Rather recent as far as cryptids go, typically the old legends and folktales, but no, 1955, Hopkinsville, as you can assume by the name, Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Ah, okay.
Yes,
Kentucky.
yes. The true heart of America, some would say. A family reports that while they were enjoying their dinner inside their home, they saw peering in through the window small creatures. They described them being small grayish, greenish creatures, vaguely humanoid in shape.
There's more than one?
Yes, this is... Beth, let me tell the story.
Oh, okay.
I'm expounding upon the history of the creature. Vaguely humanoid in shape. Defining features being massive ears and vacant, wide-set eye orifices. Yes, yes. So they were staring in through the window at them. And this being Kentucky, the occupants of the building, of course, fired the weapons upon them.
That quickly? They saw...
Immediately, you see a creature staring at you in your own private domicile.
Yeah.
Whilst in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, that creature is going to receive an injection of lead.
Oh, so it was a gun.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
They shot at the creatures, and it was a standoff for multiple hours. Yes.
Wait, what do you mean? Like the goblin stuck around?
The creatures were peering in through the windows as the families were shooting weaponry out the windows, the guns, and the creatures remained staring in.
That's wild.
For multiple hours until the sheriff arrived, and when they arrived, there was nothing to be seen.
In the 50s, it takes a really long time for the sheriff to arrive?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. They were still traveling by horseback at this period, I believe.
Sounds right.
In the foothills of Kentucky. But this was the first reported sighting of the Hopkinsville Goblin. So, obviously, around that time I hear rumor pass through my connections in the cryptid underworld. So I go to investigate myself.
Was this the first time that you heard of a new cryptid being spotted?
Oh, no. I investigate potentially new cryptids constantly, weekly, if not monthly.
Okay.
It is one of my greatest passions. More often than not, there is a more, we'll say, concrete explanation for these sightings.
Like a bird or something?
Like a bird. That is a very good point, Beth. Because a popular theory with the Hopkinsville Goblin is that it is, in fact, a great horned owl.
And it just sits outside windows.
Sitting outside the window, peering in with its dull, vacant eyes, with its widespread feathered horns appearing like ears. That is a theory for the Hopkinsville Goblin. An incorrect one, I can tell you this, for sure, as I have encountered said goblin.
Do they live in packs?
It is not really a pack as much as it is a familial unit. Right, it is a small collection of no more than 10 at any time, I would assume.
Yeah, the bird thing doesn't really hold up, because if you started shooting at a bird, it would fly away.
And it is a very, very intense bird. There are some very intense birds out there, Beth.
That wouldn't fly away when you shot at it?
Oh, yes, yes.
That's incredible.
Yes, the great standing bird of Iwatusi.
What? Is this another cryptid? Is this real?
Wait, no, this is just not really a cryptid, it's just a bird, Beth, but it's a standing bird that will stand in the face of whatever challenges come before it. Be it gunfire, a predator, a surprise increase in tax rates, they are prepared, standing. The great standing bird of Iwatusi. This is a sidebar, Beth. You've distracted me once again.
Okay, so you go back to Kentucky. When do you get word of this? When do you go to Kentucky?
This occurred in 1955. I heard of it around the early 80s. I didn't manage to get down there till 1992.
Okay.
So, it takes time for information to travel, and for myself to travel. Especially at the time. There was a lot of legal things going on at the time.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you had like a backlog of people you were going to interview because you're so popular.
That is also a very good explanation, Beth. Thank you. Yes, I was very popular at the time amongst many circles. Anyway,
okay, now I question that.
The year 1992, I arrived in
Goblin?
Hopkinsville, Kentucky.
Okay.
I conduct my investigation, traipsing into the wilderness around the purported area of this encounter.
Was the home situated in the wilderness?
Well, it's Kentucky. Everything is wilderness, Beth.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yes, deep within the wilderness of the wild and tame land of Kentucky.
Was the family still living in that? Did you get contact with the family that saw it? Were there some people who saw it?
Beth, do you remember what I told you earlier about strange creatures showing up at homes in Kentucky and what happens to them?
They got... that you didn't want to get shot at.
Yes, you are learning, Beth. You are using your power of deduction to deduce that I, Arthur Q. Mansley, do in fact have an allergy to bullets.
What was the Q for in Kentucky?
My middle name while I was residing in Kentucky was in fact Quinceañera.
Okay.
Yes.
So you just conducted your own investigation in Kentucky. Continue.
Why, yes, I am a licensed paranormal interviewer / investigator. So I am qualified, or at least was at the time, to conduct an investigation of my own accord. Anyways, if you will allow me to tell the story, Beth.
Please go ahead.
I wandered into the wilds of Kentucky, searching for any sign of these creatures. But what should I stumble upon but a large, say, 3-meter diameter, silver, egg-shaped object. And this is when my greatest fear was realized, Beth.
Eggs?
No. It was not a normal egg. It was egg-shaped, Beth. Egg-shaped.
Oh, because I knew you were afraid of eggs.
I have an allergy, Beth. It's different from a fear. Just like with bullets, I'm not afraid of bullets. I'm allergic to bullets, Beth.
So what was the egg shape then?
My storytelling, Beth. Oh, you have to learn.
But I'm so curious. I'm supposed to be asking questions.
I know. I'm sorry. I need to appreciate your journalistic instinct to ask questions.
That's why I'm an intern, to learn the craft.
I'm an intern to learn the craft as I expel the craft from my face in your general direction.
Maybe don't say
this
it like
giant silver egg, 3-meter diameter. I approach. I notice more features. It is perched upon what appears to be a tripod, and there are large black circles upon it, evenly spaced around the middle perimeter, that were reflective and appeared to be made of glass. And each aspect of this egg that I drew in confirmed my worst fear. The Hopkinsville Goblin is not a goblin as was reported. It is an alien. An alien, Beth! It is an alien! And I do not like the aliens.
Why not?
Because they are not of this world, Beth. Cryptids are of this world. They can be explained. Aliens are, in fact, alien, as the name does define them to be. They are otherworldly, unexplainable mysteries. And that is what the Hopkinsville Goblin is.
Well, how do you know it wasn't just taking up metalsmithing?
Because, Beth, I knocked on the door, as I was wont to do in the year of 1992. This was
minus Kentucky Holmes.
Minus Kentucky Holmes. This was clearly not a Kentuckian in this area. A Kentuckian would not be caught dead living in a massive 3-meter diameter silver egg upon a tripod with evenly spaced black glass windows around the middle perimeter. That is not where a Kentuckian would be residing. But I knock upon the door, rap, knock, knock, knock. The typical, hello, come to the door, there is someone here. The door descends and slides into itself in quite the magnificent opening sequence. And inside there is a small cluster of these goblin-like creatures, grey skin, as was described. Their ears were, in fact, large ears. The one thing that occurred to me as quite dissimilar to the initial description of the creature was the wide-set eyes. That is incorrect. They were not eyes, or in fact nostrils. Yes. Large gaping holes for olfactory perception.
But they're yellow?
Yes, they are yellow, Beth. Do you know what is yellow and inside a nose?
Probably something gross.
Yes, they were snot-ridden creatures, really quite disgusting. Not something you would want to interact with. As I address them and introduce myself, hello, I'm Arthur Q. Mansley, paranormal interviewer extraordinaire, quite famous. I'm sure you've received some of my cassette tapes up on your doorstep at some point. And these creatures, they just answered me with a... It was quite a disgusting sound. It's quite porcine. If you remember from our last episode, your new vocabulary word, porcine.
Is pig-like.
Relating to pigs, yes. It was a very porcine sound that these goblin creatures were making. So conversing with him was difficult, but with my gift of tongues and gift of gab,
which we also
language,
learned last episode.
Yes, I was able to converse with these creatures and ask them if you interviewatory questions.
Wait, but even though you really dislike aliens, you still interview them?
Well, yes, Beth, I'm a professional.
So you put your personal feelings aside for professionalism?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the first question I asked them, of course, was, how many babies do you consume each night?
What did they say?
They seemed rather offended at this. That I already knew the diet. Them being aliens.
Maybe that's not why they were offended.
Explain yourself, Beth.
Maybe you're just asking a really forward question right at the beginning, and that's maybe not very professional.
Beth, we clearly have different interviewing styles. I like to open with a hard-hitting question with deep impact and moral implications. Like a slap in the face.
You slap your interviewers in the face?
Occasionally.
Is that why your license was revoked?
Wait, that is not the topic of today's discussion, Beth.
Okay.
So, after asking this, they seemed avoidant and hesitant to answer, so of course I had to change tactic. Mm-hmm. Right. And I asked them, why are you placed here in the middle of Kentucky, of all places, when there are much larger centers of human culture in the immediate area? You could go to Louisville. There are horses there.
What did they say?
Well, they were quite confused, and they explained to me there was a malfunction with their egg craft. Of course there was. It's alien-made, so of course it's a poor quality construction.
Have you met aliens before this?
Beth, I've had many encounters with aliens, and not one of them has been pleasant.
Is that because you're a jerk?
Is it because I'm a jerk, Beth?
That's what I'm asking.
That is what you're asking, and I pose the same question to you. Is it because I'm a jerk, Beth?
I don't know. I've never really seen you interact with an alien.
And you will regret the day you do, Beth.
So what you're telling me is that they're goblin-like creatures and they are aliens actually.
They wish they were goblins. I have
What's the difference
infinitely
between
more respect for a goblin than an alien.
What's the difference between a goblin and goblin-like alien?
Well, a goblin is a small, greenish, occasionally greyish creature with large ears, wide-set eyes, and a general hunger for debauchery and theft and crime. You see goblins every day. Depending on where you are, how close you are to your nearest goblin colony. An alien is like a demon, but from space.
What did the Hopkinsville Goblin look like? Did it have eyes? Did it have like some sort of hair? Like what else? What else were the features if the original description was inaccurate?
It did not possess any ocular orifices, from what I could perceive. Therefore, it is my deduction that they are primarily echolocative and smelly. As in, well, they were stinky, but they also smell things to perceive them.
Did you ask them that in their interview?
No, I deduced that myself, so it was a waste of a question.
Well, yeah, but sometimes it's important to be certain, probably.
Beth, when you're interviewing a cryptid, or in this case an alien, they can be flighty. Typically, they only tolerate you for a few questions at most before they flee. You have to make every question count.
Okay.
If you're asking things you already know the answer to, why are you a paranormal interviewer to begin with? You're here to discover the unknown, not confirm the probably most likely to be known.
How long were you talking to the to the aliens?
To the Hopkinsville Goblins.
Yes.
I only had about 15 minutes before I had to go back and put some more change in the meter. I was parked on a street side.
They talked to you that whole time?
Well, it was really 15 minutes including travel to the location, so total talking time to them. I really only got one more question out of them.
Which was?
I asked... First, I have to preface, this was the year 1992. Okay?
Now I'm concerned.
So I asked them, of course, what, who their favorite boy band was.
Are you immersed in boy band culture?
It was a phase, Beth.
Oh, is that why you don't show me any of your haircut photos from that time period?
I will describe to you.
What your hair
I
looked
was at
like?
one point quite the trendsetter. If you've ever heard of the fad of frosted tips, that's an Arthur Q. Mansley original, Beth.
Oh, I thought that was
The originator of the frosted tips.
I thought that was an ice cream.
It was originally, yes. I got a little bit excited eating a sundae and frosted my tips a bit. Thought it looked pretty attractive. And a female who was also at the ice cream parlor wasn't totally frightened by my appearance, so that confirmed it for me. So I went through the process of maintaining frosted tips for a few years. And it caught on, clearly.
So you're telling me you're the first one who did that?
Yes, and it is all because of the Hopkinsville Goblin.
Yeah. Oh, what was your favorite boy band at the time?
Well, that is a controversial question, Beth, and one I'm going to neglect to answer.
What was the answer that they provided?
The
Goblins.
The Goblins. Well, they were very confused by the concept, but from what I gathered, they said something akin to Cher, which really isn't a boy band.
It's also just one person.
Exactly. It is a woman singer, not an entire band of boys. It seemed
And
really...
also, she's not like teenager age.
Exactly. You're seeing the problem here. The aliens are not very bright and not very cultured.
Or maybe they know more than you and Cher's just really good.
Oh, maybe they know more than me. You know everything, don't you, Beth? Just like the aliens.
So, when did you return after you had to put money in the meter and go ask more questions?
Oh, yeah, I returned to the meter and put the money in it, yes.
Is that what I meant?
Oh, did I return to the goblins?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I attempted to. But, well, my senses of navigation failed me, and somehow I ended up in a strip mall in a Dollar General.
Which is probably not in Kentucky. If
Oh,
it's all
there's
woods, you
Dollar
said.
Generals are everywhere, Beth. They're very widespread.
I thought you said it was all woods.
Like I said, my senses of navigation failed me.
Did you talk to the sheriff
The sheriff
of Hopkinsville?
of Hopkinsville, not. Do you know who the sheriff is associated with, Beth? Regardless of their location.
Cowboys.
Johnny Law, Beth! They're associated with Johnny Law!
Have you had problems with the law at every place that you visited?
The life of a paranormal interviewer / investigator is a dangerous one, Beth. And with danger comes some stretching and bending of the rules, which could also be defined as stretching and bending and or breaking of the laws, which gets big bad Johnny Law on your behind.
Have you been running since you were born? Never mind. Have you been running since forever?
I run quite often, Beth. It's great cardio.
Running metaphorically.
Metaphorically running.
From Johnny Law.
Well, sometimes it feels that way.
Do you have any places that you cannot worry about it?
Oh, I have many safe houses, many acquaintances I've made over the years, and connections.
Anybody in Hopkinsville?
Beth, you're asking a lot of questions.
That's my job as an intern. I thought we discuss this in the new contract.
Right. Beth, I'm just saying I'm a little suspicious. You're not, pardon me for asking, you're not, an alien in a rubber suit, are you, pretending to be my new intern?
What?
I'm asking you, Beth Oglesby.
You got my last name right.
Well, yes, I've read your file, Beth, but nowhere in there did you disclose that you were an alien. So are you an alien, Beth? You're asking a lot of questions and making me suspicious.
What do you mean, my file?
Your file? When you applied for the job,
Oh, just like my...
I investigated you for a few weeks.
Oh. I did not know
As is my
that.
profession.
But it doesn't make sense if I were not a paranormal being, entity.
I didn't know that at the time.
So you had to double check.
Yes, you...
Well, then what did you...
On the form you filled out when you applied, there was a question number 47.
I remember.
It said, are you, or were you ever at one point, a cryptid and or alien and or paranormal being? And then there were two answers, yes, no, and maybe.
Well,
and you bubbled in no, which is the most suspicious answer, Beth.
Well, what would you have answered?
Well, I would have put no, because it's true for me, and I know this to be a fact.
Well, then what...
But for somebody filling out a form, they're not going to circle yes. They might do maybe. But no. No. That is the most suspicious thing, Beth.
Well, then what did your investigations turn up if you've investigated me for 3 weeks?
Inconclusive.
Maybe you're not a good investigator.
What? Beth! You are on thin ice. Remember your contract, Beth. This is at will employment. As long as I will you to be employed, you are.
So what does the Hopkinsville Goblin eat? Besides what you think is babies.
Worms, bugs, and small rodents.
How did you find that out?
I asked them, Beth.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, I asked, how many babies do you eat? They were like, that's really gross. What are you talking about? And then
That's
I'm
what
like,
they-
well, if you don't eat babies, what do you eat? And they're like, we eat like bugs and stuff. And I'm like, oh, really? It was really unconvincing, and they were really obviously hiding the fact that they eat babies.
Well, what babies... Do they eat their own young? Or like... Because you just said babies. Like baby wets.
You are right, Beth. I didn't clarify.
Did you... What
That
did you
is
mean?
probably why they were offended, because I implied that they didn't eat their own young. Oh, it's so clear now.
Well, wait, what was the question that you were trying to ask them?
Well, I was just asking, I was trying to ask how many, baby critters they ate, like a baby bird, like a snake would eat, or like a baby bear, because it's full of protein and fiber.
And also, it's really hard to capture big bears.
I wouldn't say that. I've caught more than one bear in my lifetime.
So you think they thought you were asking that they ate their own young?
They were offended that I implied that they weren't eating their own young, because it is now, in hindsight, so very clear that that is what they do eat, is their own young, so as to keep their genetics pure and not taint their systems with particles that are not of their own being. You've cracked the code, Beth. This is great. Great investigating and interviewing you're doing. 20, 30 years in the future.
Before you talked to them, did you find out any other information, implied information? Like, did you find out any of their weaknesses or strengths or anything, or other supernatural abilities they might have?
They did have, on the exterior of their ship, a sticker. Actually, a bumper sticker, believe it or not, that read, I only pull over for fat chicks. Which I thought was very strange.
Maybe they eat chickens. Maybe they eat chicks. Maybe that's the babies that they do eat.
There was a silhouette of a quite, formally woman, right, which is, big as beautiful, that sounds perfectly wonderful. But I just thought it was strange to have on the exterior of your giant metal space egg.
Was it a human woman?
From my perception, it appeared to be. I have limited experience with that, though.
Does that mean Hopkinsville goblins are frequent visitors to roadside shacks that have novelty stickers?
One could assume so. Or they are very handy at crafting their own.
Did you ever encounter a goblin later on after 1992?
After 1992. Not a goblin.
Hopkinsville.
Yes, not Hopkinsville Goblin per se. I have met normal goblins, as normal as goblins can be.
Have you ever heard of any other sightings of the Hopkinsville Goblin beyond the 1951? Were there any between those two time periods?
No, not from what my research has been able to uncover. There was in the late 2000s, I believe somewhere around 2012. At the time I was in Europe, kind of exploring that locale. So I was unable to return around the sightings there. But yes, there were some reported sightings of small grey creatures, large ears and wide set holes in the face, which I very clearly assumed to be the Hopkinsville Goblin. But those reportings were largely believed to be false.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yes.
Did you know how long they lived? Like, could it actually have been the same familial group?
That is hard to deduce, Beth. It is difficult to deduce the lifespan of a creature in a 4-minute conversation with 3 questions asked. I believe it to be around 30 or 40 years as an average lifespan for a Hopkinsville Goblin.
So you think it was the same... Wait. Do you think it was the same familial unit since the 50s?
In the year 2012?
In 1992?
In 1992.
How many years is that?
Beth, I'm not good with math. This is why I'm a paranormal interviewer.
That's almost 40. Do you think it was the same or do you think it was different?
Yes.
Yes.
To both. It was the same creature.
Okay.
Different. He had evolved and learned. He had learned of share.
That's right.
That changes a person or an alien. Learning of share, that's a big revelation.
How many goblins did you interact with? Did it seem like they had an interesting, recognizable family structure like humans might recognize?
Well, the one I spoke with had a small mustache and smoking a pipe, which I assumed to be the father figure. They
did get changed.
They had culture, Beth. It was 1992, arguably the most cultured time in all of America.
They did change, because of share supposedly, because they adopted tobacco products.
Mm. And this was further confirmed by the second largest of the Hopkinsville Goblins, who appeared to be wearing a t-shirt from a share world tour at the time.
Which world tour?
I'm not familiar.
Was it tasteful? Was it like a nice looking shirt?
It looked like she was ready to stay in for the night.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
What time did you go talk to them?
Oh, probably around 11 p.m.
When did you start in Hopkinsville? I want to see how bad your navigation skills are.
When did I start in Hopkinsville? Well, I could feed the meter for up to 12 hours at a time. So probably around there.
So you started at 11 a.m. and only found them at 11 p.m.
Well, yes, Beth, I was wandering around the wilderness.
How did you find your car? Did you not?
Beth, have you ever wondered why I buy so many vehicles?
Yes.
I'm very poor at keeping track of them.
Is that why you only stay in this RV and have cryptids come to you now?
I have found that it is easier to keep the location of your car and your home when they are both the same. It's far easier to track one thing than two. And let me tell you, the times I've lost my home, it is far more difficult to replace.
What? Anyway, okay. So there was a father figure and potentially a mother figure. Were they like smaller looking ones?
Oh, yes.
How many?
A handful.
Did they look like smaller versions of them, or was it kind of... what's that scientific phrase that's like they kind of metamorphosize?
Beth, don't bring science into this.
Okay. Did they look smaller versions of the two bigger ones?
They did appear to be smaller versions. One of them had a rainbow striped hat with a propeller upon the top, who I lovingly in my mind deemed a little alien Timmy.
That's great.
Yes, the only alien I've ever even had the smallest nickel of affection for.
Okay, so in 2012, you heard of the false report. Did you follow up with it when you got back to the States?
Briefly. I was in Kentucky for a horse race, as one does. There's really not much other reason to ever go to Kentucky.
Minus goblin sightings?
Yeah, so I decided I would take a small detour to see if I could locate them again. I wandered the woods of Kentucky for days. Missed the horse race entirely.
Lost your car again, I assume.
Did lose my vehicle again. But I did manage to find it again a few weeks later. It was wonderful.
Was that the one from 1992 or the one from 2012?
It's hard to tell sometimes.
Do you buy the same model of car every time just to keep
I try to. Red.
Are you just really bad at identifying cars? Is that why you lose them?
Beth, I'm not a mechanic. I'm a cryptid interviewer. Anyways, I wander the forest for a few weeks. I do manage to stumble upon a location that looks very familiar. And I do find upon the ground a bumper sticker. It says, I pull over for fat chicks. Crumpled and disused, discarded and ripped from its steel shell long ago.
How old did it look?
It looked very dated.
At least 20 years.
Roughly. So I assume at some point their love for fat chicks faded, and with it, so did their desire to remain in Kentucky. In the Hopkinsville area.
Do you think they're somewhere else in the world, or do you think they left the planet?
I hope they left the planet.
Okay.
Well, what do you expect from me? Yes, I hope they stay here invading our planet. It's ours, Beth. They can go. They have to fill out paperwork or whatever to come here.
Oh, that's all the time we have. That's unfortunate. Oh, wow.
You've got me talking about aliens. I can keep going. Thank you, dear listeners, for sitting in on this conversation on the Hopkinsville Goblin. Until next time, I have been your host, Arthur Q. Mansley.
And I'm Beth.
And this has been Ghost Stories.